Hi everyone, welcome to the Practice and Master Excel YouTube channel. So in today's video, you're going to learn how to analyze data using pivot table by working on the following 5 questions. So for the first question, we're going to look at the top and bottom rows and then filtering with the timeline. For the second question, we're going to analyze the year-over-year sales and then also get the percentage difference. Then for the third question, we're going to be grouping data as well. And then we have the fourth and the fifth question. So this file will be linked in the description box. So I encourage you to download this file and try it out on your own. You can try it out either before watching the video or after watching the video. And then, yeah, let's get started. We have sales data for a company that sells devices. So column D and E shows the product and product category. Column F shows the quantity ordered. Column H shows the total sales amount bought by their customers. So who are in column B? Column A is the order date. And then column I is the sales rep, who are like the salespersons for the company. Column J is the ad platform that resulted in the orders. And then column K is a business size. For the first question, identify top and bottom performing products. So I want to create a pivot table to display the top 3 and bottom 3 products based on the total sales. And I want to insert a timeline to filter by year. So start by clicking on the cell where you want to insert the pivot table. Click on the Insert tab, click on Pivot Table. We named our data sales data. So that's what we're going to add here, and then click OK. So this is the default layout of the pivot table. But if you click on these settings, you can see other layout options, but I prefer to use the second one. So I'll click on that and we'll continue with that. So back to the pivot table, we click on product or drag product to rows, click on total sales or drag it to the value section. And I want to see the top 3. So click on the filter, go to value filters, click top 10, change 10 to 3, and then click OK. So this will give us just the top 3. So we can format the values a bit, click on the values, go to home, click number, click comma, remove the zeros, and we have the top 3. So we can copy this and get the bottom 3 rows. We just have to change the filter. So click on the filter, click on value filters, click on top 10, change the top to bottom. This is 3, click OK. So now we have the top 3 and the bottom 3. So we can do some more formatting. Let's sort the top 3 so that the highest sales, so that the product with the highest sales would always be the first one. So sort it in descending order based on the sum of total sales and click OK. Same thing here, we want the least sales products, or rather we want the product with the least sales to be the first one. So click on value, click on more sort options, click on ascending. We need to sort it in ascending order. So click on sum of total sales and then click OK. So here we have the highest sales on top and then we have the least sales on top. Next thing is to insert a timeline to filter by year. So click on one of the pivot tables, the first one, go to Pivot Table Analyze tab, click on Insert Timeline. So timeline is a filter that only works for dates. So it's like we want to filter the dates, but we're using the timelines option. So click OK. So here you have the option to filter by month, years, quarter, date. We want to look at the years. So we have the data. So if you go to the timeline setting, you can remove all the unnecessary things on the timeline, or you can leave it if you want, but we're going to remove it for this video. So drag this down a bit and we have the timeline. I can move it up and move it around. So if I click 2021, you can see that the timeline only works for the first pivot table. This was because we selected this pivot table to insert the timeline. But we want it to work for the 2 pivot tables. So I right click the timeline, go to report connections and click the second one, which is this one, and then click OK. So now the filter would work for the two pivot tables. So if we look at 2021, we have Dell with the highest sales, and then we have the Logitech mouse with the lowest sales. Same thing for 2022, data is consistent, and yeah, that's what we have. So you have the data, you can play around with this table, you can add more filters or more slicers as you want. So for the second question, we want to analyze the year-over-year sales and find the percentage change by product. So we're comparing the total sales by product across the last 2 years data. So we're going to show the last 2 years and the percentage difference from the previous year in the columns. Then we'll give the percentage difference column the name percentage change for clarity. Then we'll keep products in the rows. So let's start. So we click on where we want the pivot table to be, click on insert, click on pivot table. Our table is called sales data. So we type that in here and click OK. So we click on products. And then you notice that we have the order dates. Then we have months, quarters, and years. So Excel automatically groups dates when it sees it in the data. So this you can turn off in the file, but we'll continue with this. So next thing, we take years into the columns and then click on total sales, which is our data. So we want to see this information for only the last 2 years. So we can use a slicer, or we can use the timeline to remove 2021. So click OK, change this to years, remove all the other unnecessary things. Then just format this a bit and then move it around. So we can put it here. So we can then exclude 2021, press Control. So now we have just 2022 and 2023. So we want to see the percentage difference from 2022 to 2023, but we still want to see 2022 and 2023 in the data. You don't need this grand total column, so we're going to remove it. So click the pivot table, go to design, go to grand totals and click on for columns only. So it removes that total. So now the next thing we're going to do would be to add this total sales again to the values column. So it will form another one. So if you look here, we have the way this is ordered is we have the year, then we have the first total sales and the second total sales. Same thing, we have the year and the first and second, but we don't want that. We want to have the sum of total sales, then 2022 and 2023, then sum of total sales 2, then 2022 and 2023. So to change the order, you come to the column and move the values up. Yeah, so this has solved for that issue. So next thing we do is we want to change this sum of total sales to percentage difference, because that's really what we want to click. So go to values, click on the arrow, click on value field settings, click on show values as. You can change the name here to percentage difference. Yeah, you can change the name here to percentage difference. Then click on show values as percentage difference from. So we're looking at it from the years. So click years and then previous, because we want to calculate the percentage difference from the previous year. So if you look at this, we have the data. If you look at Dell, it's the same sale from 2022 to 2023. Probably need to check that. Yeah, so it's the same. Look at this, there's an increase of 360%. Probably need to check that one as well. And it has calculated for everything. So that's it for this one. You can move this closer. Another thing that I can show you is if you want to change this 2023 here. If you change it here, it's not going to work because it's going to affect this other 2023. So that's not going to work. So there's a way you can display a different name for a cell in Excel. So to do that, right click the cell, click on format cells, go to custom, and then type, start with 3 semicolons, then quote, and then the name that you want. So 1% change to be the name, and then we click OK. So now we have the display as percentage change. So in the formula bar, it still shows as 2023, but it will display as percentage change, which is really what we want. So you can play around with this data and add more slicers or anything you want to do at this point. So for the third question, we want to show store location as a percentage of total sales and then group by continent. So we'll firstly show the total sales by the store location, then we'll insert timeline to filter by year, and then we'll group the countries into continents. So let's start. So firstly, click on the area where you want the pivot table to be, click on insert, click on pivot table, and then our data is sales data. So click on sales data and click OK. So next thing, we click on the store location to have it in the rows, and then click on the total sales. So we want this to be a percentage of the grand total. So if you go to the values column, click on the arrow, click on value field settings, click on show values as, and then we look for percentage of grand total, click that, and then click OK. So this then shows the sales as a percentage of the grand total. So from looking at this data, we can see that most of the sales came from the USA. The next part of the question is to group this data into continents. So looking at the data, I can see we have Europe. So we have France, Germany, and then we also have the UK, which are countries in Europe. Then we have Canada and USA, which are countries in North America. And then we have India, Japan, and China, which are countries in Asia. So we can group this data into continents by selecting them and then grouping them. So let's try that. So firstly, we click Canada and hold down the Control key and select USA, right click and click group. So it'll group it. So in the group name, we can call it North America, which is a continent. And then we can also select the Asian countries, which is China. Hold Control, select India, select Japan, right click and click group. So it has grouped them, so we can click on the group 2 and name it Asia. And then same thing for the EU countries, for the countries in Europe. So click on France, hold Control, click on Germany and UK, right click and press group. So we can rename the group Europe. So with this, we've grouped all the countries into continents. So we can close it down by pressing the plus. So this way you can see just the continent and you can see how many percent of the sales, you can see the percentage of sales that they all have. So next thing, we can insert timeline to filter by years. So we click on the pivot table, go to pivot table analyze, click on insert timeline, click on the order date and click OK. Change months to years. Remove all the unnecessary information. We don't want that. Yes, this is all we want. Take this down, take this, bring it out, change the position a bit, put it here. Yes, so if you click 2021, you can see what percentage of sales. 2022, you can see the percentage of sales. So looking at this data, I can see that for Asia, in 2021, it had 22.49% of the sales. 2022, it kind of dropped, and 2023, it dropped even further. So you might have to check the Asian countries to know why we're having like a reduction in sales, or maybe we just had a lot more sales in the North American countries as well. So yeah, that's it for this question. So for the fourth question, we want to measure the impact of the ad platforms on sales volume. So we're going to display the quantity ordered per ad platform and product. Then we'll show the values as index to compare the impacts. Then we'll add a slicer for the category, and then we'll put ad platform in rows and product in columns. So let's get started. So go to insert, click pivot table. Our data or table is called sales data. So we type that in here, click OK. And then we click on the ad platform. Then take the product to the columns. Yeah, there are a lot of products. Click on total sales. But yeah, we don't want to view all these products at the same time. So that's why we're going to add a slicer for the category so that data based on the category. So go to the pivot table, analyze, and then click on insert slicer, and then click on category. Click OK. So with this, we have the category. So I can click on, remove this, click on accessories, laptop, mobile, tablets. So now it's better to analyze. So I want to just format this slicer. So if you right click it, click on slicer settings, and then uncheck display header and click OK. We can get rid of the header. If we go to the slicer and increase the columns to 2, we can have this as 2 columns. We can also reduce the width of the bar. Let's take that up a bit. We can also reduce the height of the bar. Yes, it looks good. Yeah, we can work with this. So the next thing in the question is to show the values as index. So click on the pivot table, click on sum of total sales, and then click on value field settings. So we want to show it as index. So click on show values as, and then look for index, which is the last. Click it and then click OK. Yeah, so we can format this pivot table, give it a nice number format, click OK. Yeah, so if we click any item on the slicer, we can see the values based on the slicer. So we don't need this grand total and we can take it out. So go to design, go to grand totals, go to off for rows and columns. Index compares a number to an average. So typically the average is 1. So meaning that if the number is greater than 1, then it does better than the average. And if it's less than 1, then it does worse than the average, basically. So in this case, the largest value that we have here is 1.44, which is at the intersection of the MacBook Air and the Google Ads. So based on this, we can conclude that on the Google Ads platform, that the MacBook Air sold better than on any other platform and compared to all the other products. So we might want to focus more on this on Google Ads for the MacBook Air. And also for the email campaign as well, the MacBook Air performed the least. So we might want to, reduce the budget on the email campaign and put in more budget on Google Ads to kind of increase sales. Yeah, so that's it for the fourth question. So let's go to the next question. For the fifth and final question, we want to compare the sales rep's performance against the category targets. So we're going to be showing the sales rep performance by total sales and product. We're going to create a calculated field called target, which would be the average total sales for each category. Then we're going to show each rep's total sales as a percentage of that target. And then we're going to keep sales rep in the row. Click insert, pivot table, click on this, go to data for Q5, and then select the data. Click this, click OK. You'd have noticed that I used a different data for this question. This is because when it comes to calculated item, if your pivot table has groupings, it won't work and it will give an error message. So in my own pivot tables, I already had groupings for the date. So the date was grouped as month, years, and quarters. And because of that, I needed to, recreate my own table. So all I did was to just copy my data to another sheet, so the same data, so that I can have a fresh pivot table without the date grouping. So if you look here, I only have other dates. There is no year, month, and any other groupings, right? So with this, the calculated item would work. So I don't know if there is a workaround for this, but this is the only workaround that I know for now. So moving on to the pivot table. So click on sales rep, and then we click on the total sales. So the calculated item we want to create is called target. So what we want to do is to add another line item to this data. So it will come in here, and then this line item would be the average of all of this data. So basically the average of all of this. So let's do that. Go to pivot table, analyze, click on field items and set, click on calculated item. So we'll call this target equal to, remove the 0, so equal to the average of the sales rep. So we need to click the sales rep. It doesn't need to be here. Then the item, so we want the average of all the sales rep. So click Charles, comma, David, comma, just double click Grace, comma, James, comma, Jane, comma, and Rose, and then close the bracket and click OK. So if you look, this has inserted a new line item, a new record into our data. Let me format this so that the number looks better and clearer. So click OK. So if you look, we have the target, which is basically the average of all of this. So you can see the average is 397,922 right here. I can format this more, put a comma. So next thing, we want to add the category to the columns. So come here, click category and move it to columns. So we can now see everything broken down by category. So the next part of the question is to show each rep's total sales as a percentage of this target sales, right? So that's what we want to see. So in this case, we can remove the grand total. We don't need it. So go to design, go to grand totals, off for rows and column. We don't need that. So we want to make each rep sale to be a percentage of the target. So basically the target would be like the benchmark for rating the other sales rep, right? So in this case, for accessories, 19K will be the benchmark, and then we'll rate rows according to the benchmark, rate Jane according to the benchmark, and the same thing for everybody. So how do we do this? So back to the pivot table fields, click on the values, click on the arrow, go to value field settings, then click show values as percentage of, just percentage of. We want to show value as a percentage of the sales rep, because we want to show it as a percentage of target, and the target field is part of the sales rep field. So click sales rep and then click target and then click OK. Perfect. So now we can see everybody as a percentage. We can see all the sales rep as a percentage of the target. So you can see that for accessories, Jane and Rose performed below target, but the others performed above target. For the laptop, we can see David, Grace, and James, they performed below target. The other people performed above the target. And the same thing here for the mobile, this one's performed below target. This is a way of checking performance against a target or against a certain benchmark using pivot table. So we've come to the end of this video. Please like, share, and subscribe if you like this kind of content. The link to this file will be linked in the description box below. So also, if you have some other functions that you would like to see a practice exercise for, you can also add that to the comment section. Thank you.